So, not too much to say today, because I'm just getting this guy inked, and it's feeling pretty good. One thing you want to do in OpenTunes is, in your view, turn on the fill check, so you know that you've got closed shapes. It's definitely very useful. Meanwhile, I'm watching an interview with Michael Chiklis talking about The Shield, which I've never actually seen the show, but I've heard about it. So I'm using a Tunes raster level here for the inking, which for an anime project, that's mostly what I've been using. Whenever I'm actually going to pause this video I'm listening to. Yeah, whenever I've done experiments with Tunes vector levels, and I seem to always regret it. I always seem to wind up feeling like that was not the best choice in hindsight. So clearly the Tunes raster levels are the most mature part of OpenTunes. At least that's the sense that I get. So, yeah, just plugging away. Okay, so we need to delineate behind his ears a little bit. Off to Betty bye. Nighty night. Mwah. Mwah. Try hard to kiss somebody around a microphone. That's not bad. Gotta get some wrinkles in there. Yeah, it feels pretty good. Okay, so now this pose, he's really wrenching it. He's wrenching it, baby. So it's always fun when you can sort of get moving. I was listening to an interview with Stephen J. Cannell, one of my heroes. Just seemed like a cool guy, you know, just seemed like a good, well-grounded, even though he was super successful in television. Just seemed like a really solid guy. I've always enjoyed listening to interviews with him. I would have loved to have met him. Unfortunately, by the time I was like aware of him and his work, I mean, I had been exposed to it all growing up. Man, in the 80s, he was the king of television, but I wasn't really aware of him as a person until I was into making films myself. And I remember watching this interview on YouTube, The Archive of American Television. Just a really good interview. It's about 3 hours long or something. And I thought, geez, man, I'd like to meet this guy and just pick his brain a little bit. It'd be really cool to have that opportunity. And then I found out that he had died just about the time I would have maybe sought him out and said, hey, just really would have been cool to meet that guy. But, I think he spent too many hours in the sun because he got melanoma, and it's really too bad. But the reason I brought up Cannell was that when he talks about writing, he talks about the importance of basically not winging it and just really having a plan. And that's the way animation is. I mean, inking is fun and easy when the pencil test is right. In this case, I not only did the pencil test, but I also showed it to Valerie, my partner, and she's like, yeah, I'm loving it. It looks great. So I'm like, okay, cool. So now I know I'm not going to be shooting myself in the foot trying to, ink this and then find out there was something that needed to be changed. It's just really good to have a plan and know that you're clear for landing, each step of the way. So, but yeah, I tell you, if there was one guy that I would really go back in time and just hang with, it would have been Stephen J. Cannell back in the 80s when he was cranking out all those TV shows. And a lot of them are very forgettable, kind of cheeseball shows. People tend to denigrate shows like The A-Team just because it was so cheesy. But that's not why it wasn't the content of the shows that I respected. It was his work ethic and his attitude. And he did do cheeseball shows because he didn't take it all that seriously. He didn't hold his work precious. It's just another script. It's just another show. They can't all be great. You're gonna have a few snoozers in there. And just that sort of thing where it's like a real balanced attitude about what he's trying to accomplish. And I always thought that was really a good, almost took it as a mentoring sort of thing that I'm like, I want to have that kind of an attitude, not hold my work precious. Now, to be fair, sometimes I do, and it's usually just got to do with not wanting to repeat myself. So, I do a little sequence, or I might be writing a screenplay actually, or whatever, writing some code, and you find out you didn't quite get it right, so now you got to go back and revisit things and change things. Actually, I have a situation with a client right now that's kind of like that, where I did a bunch of work for him, and it was a website development situation, and I didn't go live with it because there was something I was waiting on the client for. So it's like once it turned to the client's responsibility, all of a sudden he kind of dropped the ball. Well, it's not a really big deal. I mean, it's a little annoying, but the main thing was I didn't bill him for like 6-8 months because it's like I did all the work, but we didn't go live with it. But the reason we didn't go live with it is because there was something he needed to do that he didn't do. But yet, even so, I felt bad sending him a bill for a website that wasn't actually live yet, So, let's see here. Boom. Okay. So anyway, trying to remember why I brought that up. I'm having a brain fart, so. Oh, I know what it was. It was the idea that in order to sort of salvage that situation and get it right, so that not only I can bill him, but I can feel good about it, and he can feel good about it, and and that was what I told him. Talked to him on the phone today. I'm like, I'm not ever gonna screw you, but at the same time, I have a lot of time into this that I really didn't charge you for because I just kind of feel bad about you not, that it's not actually out there in live. It's not really working for you yet. So, but yeah. So my initial point had to do with the fact that in his case, there's a fair amount of work that's going to have to be done over, because once he finally gave it some attention and really pinned down what he wants to accomplish, you realize some of the work I did earlier is going to have to be redone or done differently. It's mostly cosmetic stuff. It's got to do with the styling of things in a website. And I don't really like having to repeat myself. I don't like having to do the same thing, go back and redo it and redo it and redo it. Especially when it's not my fault. If I have to redo it because I screwed something up, that's one thing. I have to redo it because I'm trying to carry the ball and support someone else, but yet we get it wrong because they didn't do their part to give me the information I needed so I could do my job. That can become frustrating. So if you're a creative person, I actually would say this, if people who are watching this might be into animation or art or whatever, but they're probably, a lot of them are creative types of people. And I'm going to say to these creative people that this is something you do need to be careful of, is you need to, and it's hard, but if you're a creative person, you need to assign a reasonable value to your time, and then just communicate well so that people understand. I mean, there's no rule about it, but it just seems like you need to have a point where you say, this is as far as I will go before I'm going to really demand that people communicate well and give me, like I said, the information I need to do my job. I don't know if that necessarily makes sense. It's like a pattern I see in, because the stuff I do is kind of on the creative side, and most of the people that I am doing work for are not creative people. It's normally regular commercial businesses where the whole reason they're hiring you is because they're not necessarily creative types, and they're looking to you for that. The problem is that these are things that sometimes, because the client is busy putting out fires, just running their business, there isn't necessarily a sense of urgency. So what happens is you can invest a fair amount of heart and creativity and time into something, and then all of a sudden the client stops communicating well, mainly just because they're busy. They're just busy with other things. And now you've got this thing that you've spent a bunch of time on, and you could bill them. A lot of people would. In my case, usually I just have a hard time with it. I don't want to bill you until you're happy, until the job's done, kind of thing. So for that reason, you wind up with a situation where it can be sticky. And I had to have a sticky conversation with this client just today. But it was good because I think he knew that my heart was in the right place. I'm just like, I don't want to bill you. And I want to do whatever it takes to get this right for you. But at the same time, I need you to do one thing for me, and that is communicate. You can't just go silent on me, where I'm wasting my time calling and leaving voicemails, week after week. And you're going to come back and say, well, I was busy. Well, you know what? I'm busy too. So I had to have that conversation, and he took it very well, and it was cool, and because I think he knew that I'm not mad. I got to have. I can't just leave situations in limbo for extended periods of time just because you couldn't. To be crass about it, you couldn't take 1 minute, literally 60 seconds, and just leave me a voicemail to say, hey, I'm real busy, I'm really buried, let's bump it to this time next week. If it still gets interrupted again, I apologize, but we'll reschedule again, but here's the plan. Just that little tiny bit of communication is all I need to, and I'm good. At least I know things are moving forward. At least I know that, something hasn't changed that I wasn't aware of, which doesn't happen very often, but it can happen. So, when we're doing creative work for people, whether you're doing a website for a client or whether you're doing like Steve Cannell did, and you're creating a pilot for a TV show for a network, or what I'm doing here, I'm creating an anime, and I don't even know who my customer is going to be. Ultimately, I do not know who the customer is going to be. I have no idea. My thinking is that if we can get some traction in terms of building a little bit of an audience on YouTube, that helps us to demonstrate that maybe there's some demand for this show, this property. And of course, we're not even close to being far enough into it to even say that there is a show yet. Up until very recently, it's been all about just figuring out how are we going to do this. What's the methodology for the animation? What's the software? What are the tools we're going to use? So tools that are good, that don't make us want to claw our own eyeballs because it's so frustrating. The software is so buggy. OpenTunes definitely has its. It gets close to that sometimes, I must say, but the thing about it is, when you have talent, it's really an amazing thing, because I know I have talent. I know I'm a talented guy. But what I'm always working on is my skill. I'm like, talent's what you're born with. So yeah, I can draw. I can play 5 instruments. I can write, computer code in 7 different languages. It's kind of stupid when I think about how. But at the end of the day, so what? You create this anime, who's going to want to watch it? Well, at some point, you're probably going to need some partners. You're going to need either a TV network or a distributor that's going to get on board and say, I want to rock and roll with this thing. And that's really all you need. You know, for me as a creative person, that's all I need. I don't need tons of money up front. Usually I can do things more economically than most. Um, I mean, I guess it's not a huge secret that, you know, I've made feature films where I've written them, directed them, edited, done the color correction, written the musical score, do the whole thing. The whole thing, literally do everything. And my complete total cost. Now this is, of course, I'm not paying myself, but my complete cost for everything is like less than $10,000. And I've had people tell me, there's nobody in Hollywood that can do that. There's no way. How do you do that? You know, they'll look at the film, they'll go, I'll say, well, okay, now, and this literally happened, actually, very recently. It just happened with the most recent movie I made. I said to her, okay, what do you think the movie cost? What did it cost to make? You know, it's not $1 million movie. It's not that great. But, you know, they're guessing in the neighborhood of like $150,000, $200,000. And I'm going, nope. It costs $10,000. And that included paying the name actor that I hired, who was Sean Young of Blade Runner fame, and she, you know, I had to buy her a first class ticket. I had to write 4 scenes into the movie just for her, you know, so we give her character something to do. Basically, her character is Obi-Wan Kenobi for all intents and purposes. In other words, her character is the person who is sort of like the voice of wisdom, who gives the hero, the main character, who's a young girl, you know, gives her good advice at key points in the story. And so yeah, I like wrote several scenes just for her. And I mean, I love that work. I like the challenge of it, saying, okay, you know, I'm bringing in Sean Young, so I better have something for her to do when she gets here. So, you know, so now I've got to write these scenes, and so the dictates of the situation determine what you have to write. So you can't just write what you feel, you know. You can't just say, hey, maybe the muses are going to strike today, maybe they're not. You have to say, well, okay, here's the requirement. This is the, you know, dramatically what needs to happen. And this is sort of the character that we're going to write, and then you have to come up with something, right? And I find that to be, it's not only fun, it's actually pretty easy. In other words, if I know what I'm after, it's not that hard to do it. It's when you're wallowing in uncertainty, and you know, and you're not sure what you're trying to accomplish. That's when it gets difficult. And that doesn't happen very often, because normally you wouldn't get that deep into such a project unless you kind of knew what you were after, that's for sure. In the case of that film, you know, it's the sequel to another movie I made that did pretty well. So, you know, there's sort of in terms of the genre, it's like a chick flick horse movie. It's a chick flick horse movie. So, you know, there's certain things people expect from a chick flick horse movie. So, you want to sort of deliver the goods, that's for sure. Satisfy people's expectations, but yet hopefully surprise them and give them a reason to smile as well. So what's the point of all this? The point of all this is that I know for me, and I'm just kind of sharing my deep feelings in a way, is that as a creative person, I don't need much participation or support. And I just wonder if other people that are like me maybe feel the same way. It's like you don't need a lot. You don't need a lot of money on the table. You just need some good communication, and you're all on the same page. You know, basically somebody believes in you. They believe in you and say, okay, I believe in your talent. If you apply to yourself to this project, that I'm pretty sure you're going to succeed. You're going to do a reasonably good job on it. You know, that's all we're really after, is just that little vote of confidence that gives us the energy to plow forward. And then, of course, creative people also tend to be, you know, we want to satisfy our benefactors. We want to do a good job for them, right? So that's really what I'm trying to accomplish with the anime, is I want to do enough to show that we can do this and that it could be good. And given that it can be good, then I need to go find a customer who's going to say, okay, I see your talent, I see your vision for what this show is going to be, and we're willing to give you the modicum of support that you need in order so you can just breathe a sigh of relief and just go in and focus. Now just do the work and do it fast and do it well. And if something goes haywire, go back and fix it. No problem. You know, that's what you're after. So that's really what I'm trying to accomplish. Now we have one little problem here. Right there, his head grows. It actually grows a little bit there too. But I think that one goes by so fast it doesn't matter. But that one is, to use the word, I would call it egregious. It's sufficiently bad. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. Here's exactly what I was talking about. You know, you have a situation where it's like, okay, this is not quite where it needs to be. So let's just fix it. Let's just get it right, you know. Let's do whatever it takes. And if you're, you know, if you're completely working by yourself and for yourself, it's a little harder because you have to self-motivate. And when you've got to self-motivate, sometimes it's harder to just keep chugging away and trying to get it right. And that's actually comes back to Stephen J. Cannell. One thing he said that I really liked is he said, I've known a lot of writers who like to talk about writing and they like having written, but they actually don't like the process, they struggle with the actual work of just doing the writing. And that's, you know, and he's like, for him, that's crazy, you know. Why would you even do that if you didn't love the work itself? You have to love the process. So for me, you know, I'm going, yeah, why am I animating? I'm animating because I like animation. I like animating. It's cool. You know, there's other things that are cool. I like composing music. I like doing programming stuff, you know, the web development stuff, you know, whether it's JavaScript or a lot of times it's visual. It's just like CSS code and stuff like that. But, you know, it's cool to sort of get an idea in your head and then make that idea come to life, you know, make it happen. Okay, so at this point, most of the logistical requirements of this shot are going to be comprised of static images that are just going to get inserted in here. And I'm not going to do that now. So what I'm going to do is just jump out of this so I can watch the flow of the shot or the scene and make sure it's kind of happening. So he kicks around. Now back to the beginning. Okay, so she senses something. Then there's the hand. We got to animate that or ink it. Okay. You know, and editorially speaking, I don't know if this is like the best decision I ever made. The way we're cutting it here, because I want to get rid of the camera move. Earlier, this was a camera move. If you haven't watched any of the earlier videos, I think the continuity from the shot behind the guys to the shot in front of them looks fine. It feels like maybe it goes by a little quick. I don't know. Actually, I think once this is inked, I think it's going to be fine. Now, I do take issue with this, because I think we need, I think that we need to, first of all, let's just stop it here. Let's stop it here. Okay. So this is going to be a little bit tricky. What I want to do is, at 163, I want to take everything else and move it up. So I'm going to open up a bigger X sheet. And I'm going to put that up on the other window. So, okay, so what we want to do is Um, we want to grab here. See, there's one of those little funky things about OpenTunes. You click, and all of a sudden the X sheet jumps around. It's just like I just haven't been able to motivate myself to go in and to look at the code and try to fix that, which probably wouldn't be that tough. I'm very comfortable with C++. Reasonably comfortable with Qt, which is the sort of the framework that OpenTunes is written in. But still, when you're grokking someone else's code, it's it's a big job. There's nothing easy about grokking someone else's code. So I don't know. I just don't know if I'm up for that. But anyway, okay. So like, this is so dumb. I keep clicking here. So look, is it in play mode? It's not in loop mode as far as I can tell. So I'm trying to click. I'm gonna save my work because I've said it before. The good thing about OpenTunes is if you have to like shut it down and restart it, usually you don't lose a bunch of work, but it's definitely got some quirks. So now what I'm wanting to do. Okay, so this is interesting. Okay, yeah. So we're seeing the ink and the pencils. So what I want to do is basically just kill the pencils completely. I don't think I need them anymore. Yeah, that's cool. So let's go back up out of there. I don't know. Maybe I ramble too much. I think that, I just think this. I think this is cool work, and it could be. Ultimately, could be very cool. So that's why I'm doing it. So I guess that makes me lucky because not everybody can. Not everybody gets to just try things, just say, hey, I'm going to do this just because I think it'd be fun and cool to do. So that's why I would tell a young person, man, if you're in your 20s, even your 30s, and you're thinking, you believe me, once you get past 40, but especially when you get past 45, you get in the range of 50, you're going to want options in life. You're going to want to be able to sort of make choices. You're going to want to be able to pull back if you want to pull back. And so how do you get there? Well, the simplest thing is when you're in your 20s, just save, save like $100 a month or something. Just start putting a little away for a rainy day now, because then when you're my age, you're going to be like, it's like you don't have a wolf at the door. You're not. So many people get to be, gosh, they're just always in debt, and they get to be 50, 60 years old, and they're still struggling. They're still scraping by. And maybe something will go wrong in my life, and maybe I'll be that guy too. It could happen. But I don't think so. Okay, so now what I'm going to do here is I want to I wonder why. Let me look at this. Oh, it's because okay, yeah. Fill check will get you sometimes. Okay. Sorry about that. Like, what the heck's going on? Okay, I definitely need to deal with the hand. But more importantly, I want to deal with this. Okay, so he pops up there. Okay, that goes up to frame 180 from frame 1. So, okay, so I'm going to jump back up out of here and look at this. So what's happening is, after frame 180, we've essentially got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got 6 frames. Okay, so let's go back down into this, and let's just acknowledge that we are going to have a bunch more frames, and I think this is the pertinent one. Oh no, that's the shadow. Oh yes, yes. it's his head. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and extend this 6 frames. Who's calling me? It's an incoming call. I'm going to accept it. Dave here. Telemarketer. That's what I figured. That right there is why I like hardly ever answer the phone. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the A key to animate, and we are going to be editing position. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut Control C, Control V, and then I'm going to move it up. Control C. I'm doing the Control C, Control V so that I can get the effect of constant interpolation. In other words, by copying the keyframe, you're going to have 2 frames in a row that have the same setting, and therefore you're not going to have smooth interpolation between the keyframes. If I didn't cut and paste 1 frame in between, even though I'm moving it every 2, it would move smoothly, and that's not what we want because this is an anime. This is really, most of the animation is going to be on 2s. 2s, 3s, and 4s actually. I mean, in other words, somewhere between 6, 8, and 12 frames per second. Almost all the animation is going to be 6, 12, or 6, 8, or 12, and that's when things are animated. A lot of the time, it's 1 because it's literally like his head. In this case, his head is a static 1 drawing. There's just 1 drawing is all there is. Okay, so. Okay, so now in order to make this play, we need to stretch a few things out here. Definitely want to stretch this out. Okay, we're getting there. We're going to stretch this out. So he's got to have his ponytail, and if I'm not mistaken, that should... Yeah, they're linked. They're linked in the schematic, so that means that the ponytail is going to follow the head wherever it goes, which is good. What else? Our second character needs to be in there, so let's go back here and find him. I think, yeah, Ninja 2. Okay, and his hand has to stay in there. Okay, that didn't work. Why does his hand disappear? Oh. Let's go back to where the hand is. And where the heck did I put the hand? Ah, there it is. We better label that into hand. Okay. So, stretch that down 6 more frames. We might as well stretch the beams 6 more frames. Okay, yeah, anytime here, OpenTunes, anytime. It won't stretch. So stupid. Save all. That's a new one. Every couple days you get a new one. I've never seen this happen before where you, no matter how hard you try. Okay, clearly I'm in the right place because my mouse is over it and the hint popped up. That tells me I am definitely in the right place, but when I click, nada. Nada. So I have to actually trick. Okay, so I could cut and paste these frames, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to see if this is actually OpenTunes bugginess. So I'm going to kill OpenTunes and reopen it. And boom. Okay, let's find out. I'm very curious if what we're seeing going on here is actually just a bug. So this is the sub-X sheet that we're interested in, and I do believe Yes, we were interested in a column called beams, and what we wanted to do is, no, it still doesn't work. So what I'm going to do is just go Control C, Control V. And that's very interesting. Ah, my bad. Completely my fault. This is not OpenTune's fault. I did not realize that this level was locked. So that is totally my mistake. Okay. So are we getting there? I think we are. Okay, so now the question becomes what can we leverage? Let's go to this level, and I actually think I want to open up the level strip. Level strip right there. Let's just take a look. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna hit D key to duplicate that, and then I'm gonna add this one here. Okay, we're definitely gonna want to go for 2 frames. But what I want to do is I want to see if I can leverage as much of this material as possible. So the way I'm going to do that, this is actually a little bit of a kludgy way to do things, but I'm going to try. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this, and I'm thinking everything down to his knee. Like that. Okay, because I'm going to go in and patch this later. But and I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going this way. I think in this case it's not a bad way to do it. It's definitely a little there's going to be some somewhat laborious cleanup work going on, but that's okay. At least it lets me kind of map out the feel of it pretty quickly, right? So all I need is one more shot, and then I'll go in and clean them up and edit them. So not a problem. All right, and same thing again. Just gonna grab all this stuff, and then we'll go in, and I'm thinking what we'll do is we'll go in and we'll selectively erase to get rid of stuff that definitely we don't want to keep, and then we'll redraw back in the stuff that maybe could have been improved. So actually what I'm going to do here is just let his arms swing down a little bit. So I think I want to do that also here. So I'm moving the center point here. We'll just let it swing a little bit. Okay. So, and we'll worry about the hands later, but if he's, yeah, see, because you can see, okay, this is actually working pretty well. Okay, so there's the egregious frame. Okay, so now what we want to do is just take the eraser and clean out stuff that we definitely know we're not going to want in there. I'm thinking a little larger eraser would be the order of the day, and then probably what I'm going to do is use the paintbrush tool for some of this repainting back in, you know, as opposed to using the regular brush tool to draw lines and then fill it. I'm thinking we're going to dispense with that and just brush it. And I think we'll get away with that because let's just give it a try. All right, so what the brush tool does is it's going to paint. It's like the fill tool. You're dealing with areas. You're not dealing with lines and fills. It acts like a fill, but if you try to do this with the regular brush tool, it doesn't work at all. I mean, you don't want to try to paint in large areas with the brush tool, ever. The brush tool is for lines that are either going to be filled or whatever. Now I'm hitting what I'm doing is I'm hitting the K key. I need to create a hotkey for the paintbrush tool, by the way. Haven't done that. All right, so yeah, like I said, we'll put the hands back in later. Okay, so we got a little bit more of a billowing thing going on here, so I'm going to go ahead and this is where just having the being able to bop back and forth between them is really useful. Let me see. K. Yeah, that is number 9. So, okay. And the question is, what hotkey do we want to assign to that? Okay. That's okay. That works. I think we need to have... Whoops. Little boo-boo. Yep. Okay, so now, as you can see, there's a little bit of an issue. What I'm going to do is I'm going to erase lines. I'm just going to erase that line right there. Remember, he is in motion, so this is all going to go by fairly quick. So we're not going to notice that, you know, these little tiny lines maybe disappeared for a couple frames. You're not going to see that. That's no big deal. So here we could sort of clean this up as well. It's the large black areas that matter. I mean, okay, so that's fine. So boom, 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 boom. Let's keep going. We actually want paintbrush, and I think we're still on number 9, so that's cool. So I'm just gonna kind of feel this. If his knee really came out here like this, it would kind of be like something like that. Okay. And then it's cool because I can hit the erase tool, clean out these lines, and actually I'm going to do lines and areas so that I can actually just chisel the shape. So this is what I call chiseling. I don't know what anyone else calls it, but when you're going in and erasing things back out in order to delineate the shape better, I call that chiseling. So yeah, and this is proving to definitely be a pretty good way to handle adding these extra keyframes. Okay. What is that? That's a paintbrush tool. I'll tell you what. The P key is used for playback, but honestly, I never hit the P key. I always hit the L key to loop it. And it's not like you can't just stop it if you don't want it to loop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a hotkey here in just a second. I'm going to create a hotkey and I'm going to assign the P key to the paintbrush because I've actually been finding I use it. I use it a lot more than, well, I went for a long time where I didn't realize the paintbrush tool was there, and I didn't realize what it could do for me. So, you know, call me a dummy. So I'm going to go ahead and chisel this back out. Hello, lines and areas. Chisel that, and then K key to select from the palette, and then back to our paintbrush. Okay. That's fine. I think this come down a little lower. So as you can see, there were lines in there that are now appearing underneath my brush because it doesn't paint over the lines. I think you can make it so it does. Yeah, right now it's just set to paint area, so that's definitely useful as well. Okay, little glitch here. I can live with that. Okay, and then one other thing is I sort of determined back here that we needed to give him a little bit more shoulder action, and I've sort of forgotten that, so I need to go back in and fix that. Okay, so now obviously, by the way, he's rising up out of frame. I mean, he is out of frame at that point. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch this to lines and areas. I'm just gonna paint over everything. Trying to move quick here because, well, there's no reason not to, frankly. Erase tool. I still need to set that hotkey though. Erase, erase. Looks good. Chisel. Boom, 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 boom. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay, back to the paintbrush. Still need to set that hotkey. So like I said, if by hitting the K key, excuse me, I'm selecting a whoops, I'm selecting a color from the palette. Now if I hit the R key, that would be an RGB selector, and what I would actually be selecting then would be a color, and it would change the color in the palette, which we definitely don't want. Okay, I'm just tightening this up a little bit here. And I'm thinking the erase tool, let's go to erase lines. Okay, it doesn't want to erase lines. That's weird. If those are areas, then I think if I go back to the paintbrush tool and select the black, I could just paint over them. Yep. Okay. So that works. Okay. Let's go back. It's not anatomically the most amazing thing I've ever done. Right here we have a little bit of an issue. I want... I thought I was using color 9. Okay. There it is. Okay, I forgot. I've actually got two palettes here. Alright, let's do that. Let's do that hotkey right now. We're going to go configure shortcuts, and what we want is the paintbrush tool. So paintbrush tool, and the P, I'm doing the P key. It's already assigned to play. Do you want to assign it? Yes. Save that. Okay. Groovy. Okay. I wish I could assign a hotkey to the making the brushes bigger and smaller. Okay, so now we got his hands, and I'm thinking what we'll do is we'll go ahead and okay, it's a little problematic actually. The way I just did it is not going to work. The main reason being I can't just animate this because the hands aren't going to stay in the same position relative to each other. They got to be handled separately. So no problem. What we're going to do is we're going to go duplicate and bring this over here, and we'll just go through the same process we did before with the S key. Alright, S key, hello. You know, I love that we can do that. It's pretty cool. I notice, okay, so we don't see the blackness there, but there's a little bit of a problem. So now I'm going to hit the P key again so that I can just paint this in. We'll just fake it. Alright, so that's cool. Now let's go here, and what we're going to do is we're going to go D for duplicate, add another keyframe here. We're almost done. We are definitely almost done. Okay, so S key to grab this, Move it up there. Maybe rotate it a little bit. Okay, S key again to grab this. So this is a really interesting, you know, sort of a mix of puppet style animation versus, you know, frame to frame drawing kind of thing. So anyway, it's not a big deal to just duplicate those shots. Maybe rotate this guy a little bit. Put it there. Yeah, we know that's going to look good. Let's hit the S key here. Grab that. Same thing again. Okay. So now at least we have our guy rising up out of frame, and we added 6 frames to it. So, gosh, what do we want to do here? 181. Okay, so you can hit the Q and the W keys to increment the well, in OpenTunes parlance, to change which cell or drawing gets exposed in the X sheet. Okay, so what that did for us is it spared us having to worry too much about showing him standing up here. Now, could you get away with not having that continuity at all? Yes. Yes, you could. But, I mean, and jump cuts aren't a bad thing. This is actually something where my partner Valerie's been really helpful. When editing a film, I have the classic problem, especially because I'm the director. I took all the, you know, I made all the shots. You know, it's like you want to include everyone. So you wind up having too many edits. You wind up having too much continuity. Whereas more courageous editors, which is, you know, she, with no experience editing at all, once she knew the mechanics of, you know, the hotkeys in the software and how to use the software, then it was just a matter of, well, what's her instinct tell her to do? And her editing would be, well, you know, it was always either just not quite as good as mine or it was better than mine. Sometimes not as good, and then I'd bring it up a notch, but sometimes it would actually be better. And I'm like, you know what? This person who has very little experience with this all of a sudden is editing better than me. Now, I've worked with other people who wanted to edit, and they just didn't have that courage, and they didn't have that instinct for how to edit. Well, Valerie does. So she would make these bold edits where there were jump cuts, and I'd be like, man, you're losing the continuity, but I have to admit, it looks more like a movie. I mean, it flows better. You're trusting your audience is what you're doing. You're trusting your audience to, you know, they can connect the dots. So am I being a little too meticulous here? Maybe. Because I want that continuity, so that's why I just animated this. So now we see him jump up, and what I'm not going to do is add more here. Okay, when we cut to this shot, boom, once we cut to that shot, we're going to say he's standing up, because this is anime. He should not be moving, and all we should see is this guy kicking around. Now, one question that does occur to me is he kicking around long enough? It seems to go by awful fast. Well, but see, then it's going to jump right into this shot where he's sort of struggling to get up into the room. So, and then he hits the... So, I mean, this all goes by pretty quick. I guess the good news is we can always lengthen it. Like to extend this shot where he's kicking his... To like double that, no problem. That would take 30 seconds. So, you know, usually unless there's new like we've been doing for the last couple days, there's new stuff that has to be animated. If you don't have that problem of needing to animate new things, a bunch more drawings, then just basically changing the editing choices is usually pretty fast. So I have to say, you know, there's some work to be done, but I must say it's coming together. It is coming together and looking good. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the next shot, or the next sequence. Set the fight, I called it. It's kind of a stupid name, but let's just take a look. Now this shot, okay, has some issues, but okay, so this looks a little silly, I must say. The reason it looks silly is because, let me check one thing. Yeah, Ninja 2. Let's go into here. Let's just turn this off. So by turning it off here, it won't show up anymore, but when it renders, it will show up, the shadow. So well, enough said about that. So now I think if we take a peek here, yeah, see, that works. Okay, so and when it's rendered, you can see his shadow in there. So I think that is going to require a little more color correction. So it's a little cheesy. It's a little cheeseball. He has this, if you look real close, this is, you've got this little anime effect. And this guy pops into the scene, and then all of a sudden he's startled. What is he startled by? Well, let's find out. He turns around, and I am not at all satisfied with these drawings right here. I'm definitely going to redo some of those. These guys turn around. Like that shot right there looks stupid. Looks like it was drawn by a 4-year-old. Pulls back. I think I was moving fast when I did that. Probably faster than I should have been. And I was just trying to see if it was going to work. So, anyway. He pops into frame. I'm not convinced that even looks that great either. So we'll definitely be revisiting that. Oh heck yeah! Let's just save all. Okay, I'm gonna take one last fly through this shot, and then I'm guessing probably the ending frame is in the wrong place at this point. Nope, seems to be okay. So that's it. That's it for now. I got it inked, and we'll have to go in and color it later, and on from there. So, adios, people.